Please join me in welcoming Anthony Randall. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, buddy.
We are live.
Hey, hey.
Good to see you. You're in the Planet Home World Headquarters out in LA, correct?
Well, it was once upon a time headquarters. Unfortunately, now it's just me quarters because I'm in quarantine in this office here.
So that's a big complex. You're all alone there. I've been there, and one of the highlights of it was sitting in the tea room and having tea. It's a beautiful meditation room, really gorgeous space.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We had some of the guys that helped us create the event we do every year in San Francisco. We're working out here, and we did a test pilot of the tea room, which was at the Planet Home as well. And so they created this amazing experience here. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Let's start off with telling people what is Planet Home. Tell what Planet Home is.
Planet Home really is an organization that is set up in a way to enable people to have access to solutions. So we kind of believe at Planet Home a couple of things, which is the solutions exist. They've always existed. We've chosen to add purchases that don't really help the planet. So we are trying to leverage all the solutions and all the people that are building companies that are net positive to the planet and making them easy and accessible to everybody.
And there's a, is it a mantra, the eat, make, move, live?
I think that how that came around actually was, if we want to jump into that, I'll go back if that's cool, because there's an anchor point to that, right? It's like coming from the kind of entertainment business and doing lots and lots of big live shows, we were able to move lots of people. And in long time ago, back when I was very young, and I believe that we are not so far off the same age, so you'll probably remember this as well, is Live Aid and Bob Geldof really set out to try to solve a problem. It really sort of inspired me to think about the world and how we could do better in the world. And as a kid, it's kind of what inspired me the first time around. And then obviously long journey, which we'll probably get into later on, but 2007, Live Earth came around to try to do the same thing. It was interesting because I kind of could see us moving people, but I just couldn't see the mechanisms of change. I just couldn't see us moving millions and millions of people. And so me and my partner Gabrielle and a bunch of others, Stephen Kotler, who we'll talk about later, Robert Suarez, and a bunch of really smart thinkers, try to build a mechanism of, once we moved everybody, to give them access to these solutions. And so really the plan was to do that. And what we found difficult was some of the scientific organizations were too lofty and or too difficult to break the communication barrier down for people to really adopt these solutions in their everyday life. And so after a really long time of banging our heads against a brick wall, one day I kind of threw the baby out the bathwater and decided to try to reorganize every service on the planet. So I took the eco services that we have as humans and reorganized them. And that's how we ended up with this stupid idea of trying to organize every solution on the planet to make it easier for us to eat, make, move, and live, so that I could explain to my mum how she could change her eating habits, or how she could change how she lived, or how she could change how she could move across the planet or move every day, or she could choose her purchasing habits and things we made. And so that's kind of how it all came around. A bunch of us kind of got a bit frustrated with trying to explain biodiversity to people.
Gotcha. We got a pretty exciting chat room, and I want to let the audience know that you'll see me looking left and right at different chat rooms throughout this. I'm not distracted by a cat or a bird or a car horn, but I'm checking in with our chatters. So I want to let you know who's with us. Steve LaRue, Katha Cato, Turco Ono, Callie Greenberg, Scooter Milvey, Jack Fuller's with us from your area, West Coast. Scott Irwin, Colin Peterson. Good to see you guys. Katie Chua, Mark Schumann. Mark, you get Nuchas at nuchas.com. He had a question. Turco Ono has a question for you already, which is what is solutionist on your shirt? He wants to know.
That's a good question. So early in the game. I think that the basic principle of life is you try to find solutions, right? You can either put up problems or find solutions. And at Planet Home, we had a really big task of trying to figure out how to move everybody into focusing on solutions. And one of the very early thinkings for the team was that we needed to get everyone in the right mindset from the very beginning, because mindset's everything, right? Philosophy, mindset. And so our mantra is solutionist, which is, get up and get the job done, just
Do it,
we're
right?
action people, we're action orientated. So we are solutionists.
And solutionism is the umbrella.
Yeah. The mindset is solutionism, and the kind of action is the solutionist, is the person.
Great. Kiran Sandhi, I'm going to go right to another question because
Wow.
this is why we're here. They're chomping at the bit. She says, thank you for hosting this. Honor to be here. Assuming I have ideas on ways I'd like to improve the economy, sustainability, what necessary steps, resources do you think would be beneficial?
Well, see, that's a great question. It's a big question as well.
Yeah.
So I think, when we talk about the future of economics, right, and we start to talk about the impact of everything that's going on from an economic standpoint, there is a lot of conversations going on around the sustainability of the planet and the eco service systems and the kind of cost of it. And so depending on how you want to come at it, do you want to come at it from an individual perspective, a business perspective, or a larger scale government perspective? And I think that we are going to see some vast changes in how people receive the economic value of the planet and the economic value of humans and society, and our economic value of e-commerce or purchases and the things that we purchase. And we have to get a bit of a leveling playing field. If we don't start to think about all three things at the same time in our everyday life, then I think we're going to have a real problem. There's a great economist called Kate from Cambridgeshire. If you check out Donut Economics, it's a very, very good breakdown of a balanced economy between humans, planet, society, planet, and how we live on the planet. It's called Donut Economics.
Donut?
I would say donut, as in like British donut. Kate's from Cambridge in England, so she coined that phrase. She did a great job. In fact, actually, on just to get a little bit into that, she has taken it out to Amsterdam. And she is now working with the Dutch to try to figure out if they can do this process of really sustainable living. So for them, they believe it's if they give everyone the same income, basic income, right, then what would happen is everyone would then spend more time on family, social responsibilities. And so they're really working on this idea of basic income, which is where we may have to go, by the way. So we may have to all shift to giving everyone a basic income. And one of the Scandinavian countries has been doing a test. I think they took 1,000 people. I can't remember how long it was, but I want to say it was like a year. And they put them all on the same income. It was like $1,000 or something a month. And then they did a analysis at the end, and pretty much everybody worked for the neighborhood, right? Everyone was doing good deeds and looking after each other. And, the idea of Maslow's hierarchy, of course, is creating safety being the first thing, and making everyone safe enables everyone to feel good. So
you got me thinking. A couple quick questions now. Why do you think there's so much resistance to such logically clean ideas like this?
Ask me the question again.
Why do you think there is such resistance to such logical ideas, and how do we break through that resistance?
The second part's more of the question. The first part we know the answer to, right?
Mindset.
No, it's locked up economy, right? It's like, I don't like, and I think if you think about it from a generational perspective, so if you're 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, you're passing on that money down, right? That all trickle down. And so I think that we have a number of different challenges right now in terms of shifting economic value down the chain, right, to the younger generation. And I think that comes down to the fact that the world's changed so fast and is changing so fast that I think you've got a combination of old thinking, right? And I'm just call it old thinking, old money, too scared to move forward because they know how they do things and it works for them. Mixed with extremely progressive young thinking on the technology side and progressive side, being so far afield that the two are starting to drift apart. I think we're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing it, because culture doesn't shift like technology. Like if you think about technology, exponential technology, the curve's super fast. You can build a company in 5 years at Amazon. You can be in the Fortune 500, but you don't grow culture like that. And so the cultural shift and the exponential change, I think, is what's creating some of the challenges in the world. So I just don't think it's moving. And I don't think they want it to move. I think they wanted to keep it locked up in traditional systems that they could control.
Control. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, so some countries are obviously it's easier to do, like Amsterdam is very progressive, and New Zealand, by the way, would be interesting. They actually have a different version of the donut economics program that they've been looking at, which is planet first and everything else second, and that came out of New Zealand. So I think we might see some more progressive countries doing extremely interesting things in the next 5 to 10 years. Small islands and the SIDS Islands have an ability to move in a way that large continents don't. So I think a lot of it has to do with the size and scale of the economic system that you're in, and where you want to start.
So let's be bold. What do you think the chances of the United States
Changing?
Yeah.
Great question. Wow, I don't even know if I want to tackle that one, to be honest.
Hard,
I mean,
right?
I guess I have a sort of somewhat interesting perspective in that. So I've been here since 2004, 16 years, and I'm still 16 years.
Yeah, from where?
Oh, London, or just outside. I grew up outside London, moved to London to study. Never really moved back to where I grew up. But I traveled a lot, right? I traveled extensively for most of my career. And I find I'm still a foreigner in a foreign land over here because there's so many things I really can't wrap my head around, specifically the American language, which we won't tackle tonight, but that should be for a whole show. I don't know. I mean, look, it depends if you're hopeful or not, right? Like, I hope that the stress put on the system forces some people to make some changes. But do I see America being as progressive as, say, Holland? No, absolutely not. Do I see America rethinking? No, absolutely not. But do I see Americans wanting change? Absolutely. Do I see everyone wanting change? Absolutely. Do I think there's an opportunity? Absolutely. And I do wonder, and you do wonder if America becomes a dam break, right? Whether it's like going to be a trickle or a break. So I don't know. The jury's out right now. But there's a lot of people on the street, so we could ask a few of them.
Sure. What are some of the blessings that have come from this quarantine, this lockdown, this pandemic that have fed into what Planet Home wants, which is a better, ecology, a better world.
That's great. I mean, it's so good. It's like, changing minds, right? Like, how do you get somebody to change perspective? Well, COVID did a lot of that for us because we couldn't really stop operating. We built a machine, right? It's called the Industrial. Built this machine and we all run in it every day. We're like on this kind of hamster wheel. And so we have to turn the lights on, which means, we have to extract all the fuel from the earth in order to do that. And we've got to make our plastic in order to fill our food. And we have so many systems we've built over the last 100 years. Expecting anyone to change them wasn't going to happen. We were running too fast. You couldn't make, and then COVID comes along. And then COVID's interesting because it's like, in computers, you have ones and zeros, like it's on or off, right? It's a switch. You turn the light on, you turn the light off. But unfortunately, there's so many gray areas, right? In the way we operate the planet, there was too many arguments going on between like human impact, industrial impact, the oil companies could fight for this, yada, yada, yada. Then COVID comes along and says, I'm turning the switch off for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you guys see what happens when you turn the industrial switch off. So there's a very black and white viewpoint now on what happened on the planet, which is, I think, really important. And, everyone's been forced to do all the things that we should be doing culturally anyway. Stay at home. I mean, I got a 7-year-old, get to stay. I mean, I homeschool him. I know more about my kid now from a school perspective than I knew before. Because what's interesting for us to consider is like, we build institutional thinking and we build institutional rules, and then we lock ourselves out. So we're locked out of the kids' classroom, so we don't really know what's going on. We get the reports from the teacher, but that's a second-hand point of view, right? It's a lens through a lens. Now I don't need a lens through a lens because I'm sat in a classroom with him. So that was a big gift. The planet got a little breather. That was a big gift. We've seen many things happen on the planet. That's my light going off, by the way.
Planet.
Of course. And of course, I'm a one-man band now because there's no crew here. So, I the lighting guy, the sound guy, so...
well, that's also the planet talking to you, saying, "Hey."
It is. It heard me.
So I can pull up something on the screen if you want to jump up and adjust it, or you're
No,
good.
I'm going to let it go. We're going to just live with it.
It's fine.
Yeah, we'll live with it.
I feel like, the COVID also kind of, I mean, it just slowed. I'm kind of like, whoa. Like Hank Rogers was on the show a few weeks ago, and he said, I was flying all over the world. Now I'm zooming all over the world, and I don't have to sit in a plane for 8 hours and prepare from 2 hours from the airport and to the airport. And I'm getting more done just by zooming instead of flying.
I mean, like, Hank's a good friend. I love Hank. I'm a big fan of Hank's. I look up to Hank so much, and he's right, you know. And I think I have nothing but lists of good things. I don't have actually, other than sickness and illness, which is happening, which is really challenging. And my mum's old, and you know, we had to do a lot of work. But you know, actually, a really funny story was that I have a lot of family in Israel, and we hadn't actually had the family together since my granddad passed back in the 80s, just because everyone's so spread out. We've had everyone together at different stages, but not all together. And we actually had a Zoom call a couple of weeks ago, and you know, there was like more people in my family than I'd ever seen before in one place. So I feel very blessed, just very blessed. And then we have these choices in life. Do we look at life through half full or half empty? And when you come into really challenging times like we are right now, how do you keep going? How do you keep momentum? How do you keep your spirits up? And that's, you know, something we have to work on every day. So hence the tea room, by the way.
The tea room always helps. Going back in the chat because it's on fire. Becky Savell out in Simi Valley is with us. Winnie Maria, Elizabeth Harder's here. Hi. Let's see here. Priscilla Link is back. Kiran Sandi, Heather Prescott. Kiran says, I've been studying water rights, water changes, etc. for 3 years. I'd say from business particularly because I think it would be beneficial to combine the two, but people are afraid of the cost. How do we explain the benefits of sustainable business on a larger scale?
So the economic value issue right now is that we're not able to really talk about the cost of the extraction from the planet, right? So if you buy a water bottle, we don't really add up the value of the water bottle to the planet, right? Whether it's the extraction of the you know, the crew that it takes to make it to go to the factory, or the water that it took to make it, and or the recycling, or the fact it doesn't go away. And because we're not really managing the monetization of the products themselves in the right way, there is no way of explaining it. And we're actually spending a long time on building what we call our Planet Home Earth calculator, which enables us in our micro actions platform to be able to value not just the action that we're able to do, but also the costs to the planet. So
I didn't hear you. Building a what? Planet Home?
So underneath what you see, so right now at the moment, on our website, really that got built for the media team, right? So we have a big media team that deal with the event and media side, but the technology team that we have been building for quite a long time is like a micro actions platform. So it enables us all to do an action every day, and that action then can be calculated, and we can see what we're doing on the planet. And so I'm actually building in the middle of our framework. And if you go to the Eat, Make, Move, Live, which is under solutionism, if you go to about solutionism, there's a good little about there. So this, what happens here is underneath this, we've built, you know, Eat, Make, Move, Live. But if you scroll down there for me, what you'll see is you've got these different buckets, right? In fact, Rob, if you come out of that for me, go back to the menu. I'll give you a quick spin on this. Go back to the mega menu in the top right for me.
Yep.
Yeah, and then go to about solutionism.
Where is about solution? Oh, there.
There you go, right there, bud. So basically, if you scroll down from there, and this is like a lot of people's hard work. Really, what you have then is you have the planet broken down into Eat, Make, Move, Live, but that's the areas in any of these sectors. So like under food production security, right, what we really talk about there is like, you know, how our food is made and how it's delivered, and how they all go together. And land stewardship is basically how we look after our land, and ocean stewardship is how we look after oceans, and so on and so forth. Now, what happens underneath that is we have very complex data layers that enable us to organize products and services that we use on the planet. And anyone that has a net positive product or service sits on this very large database we have. And what we're actually building in the middle is a connective tissue between the products and the services and the humans. And in the middle is this calculator that we've been building for a while that enables us to calculate our actions. And so it's called a micro actions platform. It's not up, it won't come up for another month, but it sits underneath this piece. And when it's up, it should be good fun. It should enable everyone to value what they're doing, see what they're doing, do an action every day, do some good every day. So it's really about, for us, just making it really easy for people to kind of think about one less meat meal or one less car ride, but it has to be fun and it has to be engaging. So we constantly try to use our media marketing and kind of old sales tools that we used to sell trainers and records, I guess, and other products to try to sell the idea of fixing the planet.
For you watching Planet, that's planethome.eco. Everything I just showed you is on the web, so you can explore that. You don't need us to go any further into it.
Did I answer that question at all? It was or helpful at all?
How do we explain the benefits of sustainable business on a larger scale? Yeah, I think you did. Mark Burnbach's with us, Amy Alt's with us, Wayne Simmons, Deborah Jean Templin, welcome. Let's see, we got some more questions here. Last questions. Kiran, she said, last question, sorry. No, ask as many questions as you want. That's why we're here. Older generation to younger, what's the biggest thing my generation needs to change? And Kiran, I think is the young generation.
So the young generation's asking what they need to change?
Yep.
Great question.
Yeah, it's usually the other way around.
No, it's a good question. I think, first of all, we have to change the perspective of talking about them versus us, period. Right? End of story. It doesn't make any difference to me whether it's an English versus American, a young versus old. To me, it's not a them versus us. It's what we all have to do. And I think the very first thing is everyone's got to listen to each other. I actually mean listen. There's a great quote. Do you ever remember the film White Men Can't Jump?
Yeah.
The bit where he goes, "You can't hear Jimmy." So he's talking about Jimi Hendrix. And throughout the film, he says, "You can't hear Jimmy." And he's like, "I can." He goes, "You can't hear Jimmy." And he's like, what he's really referring to is you can't really hear the music, but you think you can. Sometimes in life, we don't really study enough and learn enough from the person that's talking. So my first thing is I think we've all got to listen.
I think that's also a symptom of what we were talking about that COVID addressed, which is the speed at which we are trying to do things. And learning is not so much learning to understand, but learning to pass a test or regurgitate the information and not really having a deeper understanding of it.
Deeper understanding.
Turco Ono has a question. My son is finishing his bachelor's in sustainable farming. Is next day delivery a bad thing for our planet?
Man. Okay, so there's a great company called Loop and TerraCycle, two great companies actually, that are tackling actually that whole issue, which is sustainable delivery and sustainable packaging. So I actually think that I would say yes on one side, which is I think everyone should walk to the farmer's market and get fresh groceries. So I think that exercise is good, and I think everyone can walk, and I think that's good. I think it brings a bunch of questions into it. I think, can we solve the cycle? Yes, I think we can, and there's some great companies out there doing that. I think they'll solve some of the kind of production issues that we have, but they'll create other challenges. There's a great conference called UCOT, which is Unintended Consequences of Technology. I think they will solve some problems, but there'll be some unintended consequences that will come from it. So I think we'll solve some of them, but I think everyone getting out and walking to the supermarket or going and seeing their local farmer is probably the way to go. But it's not that scalable. Yeah. The other question then brings up, which is the big problem we've always had, right? Which is why McDonald's exists in the first place, is why do we have fast food restaurants? Because they made it cheap and easy. Why do we like, our farms are factories? I mean, people call them farms. They're not farms, they're factories. They've been factories for so long. And we've factorized our farms. And so it depends on how you're growing your food and what your food systems is. But any food system that is factorized right now, and, I think is a problem. But there's a lot of, vertical farms, man. I mean, I think that's the future. There's some really great farms up in north of you, actually, up in the northern states of New York right now. Massive vertical farms that are coming up, which are going to be great. I think they're gonna do well. Regenerative, by the way, regenerative eco-service systems and regenerative systems is a really big movement. It's probably one of the biggest moves I've seen. So if she's in that space, definitely check out what's going on in the regenerative farm space. We have some friends that have a place called the Mushroom Farm up in California. It's 170 acres on the coastline, and they're doing magnificent stuff. So I've got some hope that through technology and smart farming that will solve some of them problems.
Define vertical farming.
Oh, yeah. So it's vertical farming. So there was back to New York for you. So a few years back, a university tasked its students with figuring out how to feed New York from farms, right? From naturally fed food. But the trick was they could only grow it on roofs of New York City. That was it, right? And or land. So they calculated the square foot of every rooftop in New York City, and they realized that they didn't have enough square footage to grow enough food to feed the population. And one of the students decided to stack the farm on top of the roof to make an idea that if they stack the farms, they can have enough food. And that's how vertical farming was developed, and now that's here. So there are stackable farms. In fact, IKEA did a great job. IKEA is a company that's really interesting to look at, but they actually created a home vertical farm. You can actually build it in your house. You stack the farm, the growing, and it basically allows you to grow more food in a vertical stack. And of course, all the soil and all the nutrients in the soil are self-filtered like a swimming pool in a way, so that you actually keep all the nutrients in the water and it's recycled. And so it's a complete eco-service system for growing food. It's pretty cool.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. Back to the chat. Patricia Whitkus is with us. Sean Gillette. Hey, Sean. Austin Gary. Tammy T. Let's see here. Samantha Firestein. Give us a quick answer. What is sustainable farming? Somebody's asking.
Sustainable farming is really the ability to be able to self-serve your farm with as much of its own resources as possible. So you're not extracting other resources to make the farm operate. So if you could regenerate your water, there's some really great, we have a friend called Kumar, actually, who was in our first conference back in 2017, and has probably one of the most sustainable farms in India. And pretty much they use technology to measure the water, how much water is serviced, and then they take the water back in trays and they recirculate it. All the soil is fresh soil, so they didn't erode the soil, and they're not using any chemicals. So the idea of regenerative really is not sustainable, it's regenerative, is the ability to regenerate everything in one eco-service system. So we use this word sustainability. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think that it's about sustainability. Sustaining life on this planet is actually going to be about regeneration, which is using the same things, or circular economies, which is the same thing going around the circle again without and being reused. So I'm more of a fan of regenerative systems and circular economies than I am of sustainability. Although we have to be sustainable in order to be on the planet.
Joel Bloomsack is with us. Zeth, aka Zero Boy. Zero Boy does a show on Zoom every Thursday night. Check it out.
Awesome. Hey.
Yep. Becky Savell says, I love that we can focus on the core of the conversation over Zoom or whatever and not be distracted by travel, hotels.
Me too. Me too.
It's 10:30, which means our show is officially over.
Awesome. I'm going to go to the pub.
Wait. Will you stick around for a little overtime?
Let me just check with the accounting department. Yeah, no problem.
Good. And in order to kick that off, it's a game we play called 5 Objects. I'm going to show you 5 objects that I've noticed in my house from all this quarantining, and some stuff I'm like, whoa, why do I have it? Now I'm glad I have it. So here we go. You just give me a quick reaction to each item, and I'll start off with an onion.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good one. I have a friend who I work with that always calls it peeling the onion, and I always say peeling the onion, and we use it for 2 different perspectives. So when he's solving a problem, he calls it peeling the onion. He tries to take the problem back to its most basic principle idea, get rid of all the crap, and he calls it peeling the onion. So he'll pull back everything until he gets back to the core 1 + 1 = 2. I actually use it differently though. I actually use it in relationships. I call the relationship onion of emotions, right? You go and end up pulling back the wrong skin of an emotion in a relationship at the wrong time. Everyone's crying. So there's 2 perspectives on using the onion analogy. Mine is how I see the world through relationships, which is everyone does it every day. They carry these onion relationships.
It's quite different. All right, here's my famous favorite.
Oh my God. The only thing I can think of is when I nearly got run over by a rhino in South Africa.
Really?
I was on safari, yeah, and
Watch
the
out,
rhino.
flashback. I don't want to trigger you.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's the only thing I can think of is the only time I've actually had a rhino in my life was one that just popped out the bushes on safari and nearly run our truck over.
Incense, a nice giant bundle of incense.
My tea room, my meditation, my morning ritual.
Got it. And number 4 is...
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so we are growing vegetables in our garden, and that's my son's favorite tool. And we have been out growing and vegetables in the garden for a while. So he loves doing that.
My favorite too. We've got vegetables on our roof of our building. And the last
now, you know what you need to do though?
What?
Vertical farming. You're gonna have to look it up tonight.
Yep.
And convert it to vertical farming.
Yep. Butterfly.
Actually, my son actually caught this beautiful butterfly about 3 months ago, and I still have a picture of it in a box. And it was alive, and his friend found it with a broken wing, and they fixed it, or tried to fix it.
Your son is a beautiful recurring theme. I love it. It's beautiful.
Yes, yes.
DeLorean Tokes is with us, and Becky Savell says, let's focus on quality of conversation and let go of the ancillary distractions. Michael Swiss-K, J.O. Sanders is with us. J.O. Mighty Oak. John Harris is with us. Kiran Sandhi says, so basically you're a genius.
No.
Yeah. Yes, you did. 100%. This is amazing. What would it take to work with you? So maybe I can make a match between you two through email. How's that?
Absolutely.
All right, good. And then she can give us reports on the genius. Jack Fuller says, for 100 years or more, our most valuable pursuit and scale of success has been based on capitalistic achievements. How can we change the mentality to have nature, climate, and animals be our ground floor foundation for success? Wow, good question.
Great question. Actually, there's I don't know if you're familiar with Buckminster Fuller, but we work very closely with the Buckminster Fuller team. I'm very inspired by them, their work, and we're working really hard on that actually, which is how do we really get everybody to refocus that all of the things we need are here, right? Well, we don't need anything else, and we keep building on top of this planet that just can't take the weight. So, that's our focus, right? Is get everybody back to live in equilibrium with the planet and in harmony with the planet because, and by the way, I'm certainly not the genius. I just know a bunch of really smart people and I'm just regurgitating information. But, when you have people like Amanda Ravenhill and Tom Chi and Gabrielle Hull and Stephen Kotler and Robert Suarez, all these amazing geniuses that have been working on this and biomimicry for a long time, like the simple fact is that we are extracting from one side, building all this shit up and then dumping it on the other side. So we're just like one big machine. And, there's Tom Chi has this amazing analogy and talks a lot about like ant life, and the weight of ants and how much they, and efficiencies. We are the most inefficient species on this planet. Our consumption and destruction far outweighs the amount of people on the planet. And there's this misnomer that we're actually having an issue with the amount of people on the planet. We're not. We are now starting to see a decline in population globally. The issue is we're inefficient and we're wasteful. We're really wasteful. So I think until we stop being wasteful, we're not going to win.
Austin Gary says, any thoughts on Findhorn Gardens?
Any on?
Findhorn Gardens.
No.
Okay, good. Austin, maybe pop in there what it is. Somebody put, there's no name attributed, so I'll just let you know, a Facebook user. Anthony, a couple of years before Robert and I met, I was creative director at a prominent foundation working on a broad swath of sustainability advocacy issues. Planet Home takes on a lot too. How do you work with your team, board, experts to prioritize what so many concerns take on?
Great question. So what we've tried to do more than anything else is really just be a mechanism and a toolkit, right? Because like the biggest problem we have is like no one person's doing this. Like we have to find millions of leaders, millions of people that want to take on the charge themselves. So really what we focused on was really just making it super simple and easy to get engaged with different organizations and different solutions. So we're more of a toolkit for the people to do the work, less about us. We don't really have that much intelligence. We have a lot of smart people, and we connect a lot of dots, and we seek a lot of smart advice. But you know what? No one person's doing this. This is all of us. This is everybody.
Let's go to a couple pictures real quick because some of these
Oh, what
are.
have we got?
Yeah, man. I found your. I got your.
thought we're in overtime though, Rob. So I don't know about that.
Huh?
We're in overtime.
I know. So I figured I tapped into your phone and I got some photographs out of your phone without you knowing. So here we go. And I went to the Planet Home Conference Summit Mega event last fall, and it was crazy. So
What is that? That's, oh my gee whiz. Okay.
tell us what's going on here.
That is me looking really sheepish. And that's actually my last ever commercial project before I gave it up to do Planet Home full time. That's in Korea.
Korea?
It's in South Korea. In fact, actually, you know, the crazy story about that, and just it just made me remember this. I completely forgot about this. So I put this show together in Korea for a car brand and for some really good friends of mine, Mike Jerkovic, who I've worked with for a really long time on and off, and Manfred Fitzgerald, who was the CEO of this amazing Korean car brand. And they decided to put it together. And then Trump goes to war with North Korea. And so when we were putting that together, we couldn't get anyone to go out there. Like no one would go. And eventually I managed to convince Gwen Stefani to come out and a bunch of other people. But yeah, that was tricky. I was actually living in Korea when they were going at it, threatening each other to have war with each other. So it was, yeah, that was interesting times.
You could have snagged Dennis Rodman real easy. He was over there.
Yeah, no, not on my list.
Your list.
I mean, music list. Let's be crystal clear. I have Dennis Rodman's amazing. Don't have any opinions. What's on my music list?
Your music list is pretty insane. Your previous career. I'm going to try and find the imagery here. Just give me a second. Yeah, your previous career, incarnation, producing concerts. This is one of
mine.
Who is that standing there in the deep dark blue?
That is actually not mine, but you know, that actually picture belongs to, I believe, Christian Lamb, who's one of the most amazing directors in the world.
Oh, these are the ones that we didn't want to show. That's it. There we go. Drake. We got Drake.
So that looks like, I wonder what that is. Yeah, so Drake I worked with for a while. He's amazing. His team is talented. Alan Stone, that's, you know what, that's from Planet Home's first ever event in Squaw Valley in 2017. That's where that's from. Oh yeah, and McCready as well. He played that. We put a super band together for that. Half of Pearl Jam, half of Dave Matthews. This is this year. That's the dinner.
This is the incredible dinner at Planet Home last fall. 500 people.
600 people at that dinner. But you know the story about my busted knee, right? Do you know that story?
I saw you on crutches, but I don't know.
So I pulled my meniscus the day before the event, and I wanted to say hi to every single person we invited to dinner. And then I got halfway down the table. My knee was so bad, I couldn't barely make it. But I finally managed to get down the table. And I wish I'd never put that dinner together after that, because it really broke me. Yeah.
One of the main stages from
Danny Washington. I love her. She's like one of my favorite humans in the world. She's actually a world leader in oceans, and she's just super badass. So that's Danny Washington.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. We're going back into the chat. Ron Cephas Jones is with us, and Michael Swiskay has a question. Can conventional classic economics, Keynesian, Friedman, Hayek, reconcile with the economics of a sustainable, even enlightened world?
Read that again.
Can conventional classic economics reconcile with the economics of sustainable
and classic economics? That's a great question. You know, we have so Gabrielle, who's the actual smart one at the company. I'm just the one that sits here and regurgitates her brains. We're about to do so we've been on hiatus for a while actually, and for a number of different reasons. But she's running and we built this workshop with some really smart people. It's called Nico Sprint, and it's a protocol for really solving problems and answering these questions. And so the way it works is that we take our workshop protocol and we put really smart people through this process to ask these questions. And we actually have one coming up on the future economics in a not so long away. And these are the questions that we ask. So what we do is we bring together different thinkers from different backgrounds around our steep protocols. So we have a social cultural leader, someone from technology, someone from environment, someone from economics, someone from policy. And then we bring a subject matter expert. So in this case, it'll be finance. And then we task each cohort, each group of 8, to answer a question. So I'm actually going to ask you to email me that question, and then I will put that into the hopper, because that's a great question for Gabrielle. That's a really great question.
This is my question. How do the people that work with you keep up with you? You seem like your mind is moving
Pass.
fast and it's
Pass.
powerful.
Pass. Not going to answer that.
All right. I'm just wondering. Maybe everybody.
Honestly, it's actually just about distribution, right? It's all about equal distribution of all parts. And there's it's actually right now there's not that many of us in the core team, so there's a lot of internal training. One of the things I got very good at over the years. So my original background was in engineering, way back. I started off as an engineer, and then when I moved into really live entertainment, one of the things that people don't realize is that you design, you engineer, and then you rehearse, and then you practice, and then you rehearse, and you practice, and you build, and then you deliver, and then you start again. And then when you're doing that at scale, so we're now doing, global logistics for hundreds of shows a year, for 60-odd thousand people a show, and you're running hundreds of planes and hundreds of logistics, you're doing that inside out. So for me, I can do this thing called step up, step down really quickly with the teams. So I do a lot of training, a lot of work internally, a lot of work externally. We have a lot of really wise, smart people, way smarter than me, that work on different subject matters and different focus areas. And it's really just about coordination. It's really just about good coordination and really knowing how to get out of the way. Like, that's the key to it. It's not knowing everything. It's knowing what you don't know and getting out the hell out of the way when you've got someone that does know. So, it's a combination of really just coordination and support, really supporting the team where you can. And, sometimes I definitely want more than I can get. That's for sure.
I want to show off a little bit. This is another small band that you worked with called U2 that you put together, the Invisible Show.
Yeah. Actually, I guess that brings up a very funny story. That was on my birthday. We wrapped that show, and it was a complex show. So that screen behind, you can see that kind of pixelated picture on the screen.
Yeah.
That was actually, I did a lot of heavy technology stuff back then, and we used infrared technology. Infrared, which is basically like, if you see a car park light at night and you see that grainy picture, well, the way it sees you is through infrared tracking. So we use the same technology to make an app to move the content on the screen in real time. So as we shot this scene, the lights were moving and Bono was moving in real time. And at the end of it, it was such an exhausting project that I actually ended up on the very last day, last shot, finished, wrapped, clipped the board, walked away, went to my office, and I literally fell asleep, and it was my birthday. And literally, as I nod off, all I can hear is like, "Where's Antony? Where's Antony? Where's Antony?" And I think they're going to shoot another scene, and I'm now fucked because I'm sitting in the office. Sorry, excuse my French. Sitting in the office thinking like I've lost like a scene. Yeah. So I ran all the way down, and then the band ended up singing me happy birthday. Like, so I missed my own serenade from the band singing me happy birthday. So that's an interesting shot. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's amazing. That's Yankee Stadium.
Yankee Stadium, you did Jay-Z. There's
Chris and Jay, yeah. That was that show is still one of my favorite things in my whole life. I'll never forget that show.
So when I went to the Planet Home show, you brought all of this incredible these abilities to make a magic event, because it was magic. There was a village there with probably 20 different exhibitions slash I don't even know what you call them, a community of 20 different.
So their experiences, they were designed. It was really a team. I mean, we had a very, very, very good team. And I got to give some credit to the whole team, because it was a whole village that built that, but it was people from different backgrounds. So, philosophically for me, it's always about trying to mix and match different cultural design components. So Charlie Henkel, who helped me put the Vision show together, shoot and direct that, and put the whole package of that together, and the main stage, is actually one of the world leading producers. And he's the guy that does like the Billboard Awards and the Emmys. And me and Charlie go back a long way. He's a dear friend, and he came and put that together. We used a different team for the Village Rock and Roll stage, and they really came from doing large scale festivals. And that was BWG, which were amazing, and some of the best festival producers in the world. And then we put this amazing team together to build these once in a lifetime experiences in the village, which was like, you know, Roxy and Becca and Seth and Damien, these amazing creators. And the whole team had never worked together in this format before, so it was a bit tricky. But yeah, it was pretty epic, and there was a lot of different thinkers and different backgrounds. And Robert Suarez and Gabriel Hall running our workshops, and Buckminster Fuller and Amanda and Tom, and you know, I mean, it was a whole army of amazing people that committed time and energy and love to that thing. It was a lot of love.
I could tell it was beautiful. It was brilliant. And I could see that there were different teams working, complementing each other. And the beauty of that was certain teams had their expertise, and you could feel different vibes, you know, different experiences because of that.
Yeah, we had a complex program, and Becca Dakini and Christopher and Sinja, like the programming team, like had such a wide spectrum to deal with. Because like someone asked earlier, how do we deal with the challenge? And anyone's worked in this space knows if you're dealing with, say, a complex issue like an eco-service issue, and then you try and tell one message, by the way, on trees, or one message on sustainability, it's really hard. And we actually are delivering 4 areas, 16 sectors, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages at the same time. So, you know, it's a very complex process, but we had a great team doing it.
It was great. Jamie Meadus is with us. Jack Fuller has an interesting question. How can we sell compassion and empathy as an asset? When I seek donations for our homeless program from VCs, corporation execs, etc., they want to know, what is the marketable payoff?
Well, so there's a great friend of mine called Gabriel, who's working on a very large scale nonprofit program actually at San Francisco. So I'd be happy to connect that dot, but I would say that the biggest challenge, the biggest problem that we have, and it's actually coming up right now, is that I don't think there's enough mental health resources and or rehabilitation for us to deal with all the challenges. And so they're leaving the police to deal with these things. And so how on earth do you think that someone's been trained to be in a task force is going to deal with someone homeless? And so I think we have a societal issue right now, which is, if you look at homeless people, they're a result of how badly we've treated each other. So until we start treating each other better, we're probably going to get more homeless. And Gabrielle's been working on a very exciting program in San Francisco to scale some solutions for homelessness. So I would be more than happy to connect that dot.
He's right outside of San Francisco, by the way.
Right.
Samantha Firestein said, my father grew up farm to table in Stone Ridge, New York. The only food they purchased was from the butcher. My family was known as the Egg Family. He's 87 and he's still kicking it.
Love it, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Farm to table. True farm to table, that is.
Let's see here. All right, so we got a couple more comments here. Katha Cato says, the earth will eventually correct itself, and to do that, it will need to shake us off like a big wet dog.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
Another comment, a famous garden in Scotland built on sand, this is Austin Gary, that grew enormous vegetables, etc., by involving plant devas. The head of the Botany Society, Sir George Trevelyan, visited in 1960 and said, oh, you engaged with the devas, a spiritual approach to gardening. Okay. James Turcott has a very pertinent question. What's your favorite pint?
Not a beer guy, fun enough, but if I do, it'd probably be Heineken or Stella. But I'm not a beer drinker, really. Never was.
What is your drink?
Bourbon, tequila for my 2 drinks, and Sambuca. I'm a big drinker. If anyone knows, I'm a big drinker.
Really?
Been out with me.
See,
I used to do like 50, 60, 70 hours straight at work and then still go drinking. So
I guess your knee injury handicapped you when I was there, because I didn't get
to. It did. Well, that and some other issues. We actually had one of our key staff members have a fatality in the family the week of. So we lost one of our quarterbacks, which was challenging. So I had to fill in that role. So I didn't get to do as much hobnobbing as I like to at such an event. I ended up running operations for the whole event. So it was definitely boots on the ground for me.
We're gonna wind up with a few more photographs and talk about those and get some more questions from the chat that are sitting there. But now it's time for our audience to give thanks and kudos. So go ahead and drop those in the chat if you'd like. Cindy Hernandez, Carolyn Zezima is with us. Carolyn's one of my fellow gardeners here in New York. We have a plot in the garden down the street.
What happened to, by the way, what happened to like I was thinking about this a lot recently when we talk about bringing gardening back to rural and inner cities. And there's a great guy out here in Compton doing it. And, I grew up with my grandfather having a plot, like a little gardening plot. And
Yeah.
we always go down there. So I think that we got to try to get that back into the cities.
Well, we've got the Green Thumb nonprofit organization that has taken over, I think, 100 and maybe.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
And so right half block from me, we've got about probably 25 plots in this beautiful garden. We grow tons of food and comes up in August, September, or October, and we're sharing seeds in the spring and harvest in the fall. It's wonderful.
That's amazing.
Kiran has says any recommendations for getting people to work together more smoothly?
Work with robots.
Yes, work with robots. All right, let's go.
You had Kathy Eldon on, right? A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's another one of my heroes, Kathy Eldon. I think is probably the most well-rounded in collaboration. And so I think we have to start really empowering those that really are the ones that are building true collaboration and understanding how to teach collaboration. I don't think we were ever really shown what collaboration means. So all these new things we have to learn are tools that weren't really taught to us. Like we got put inside a machine, an industrial machine for a really long time. And we got sat in rows in our classrooms. And, we got kind of taught these tools about building this mechanism of, industrial era. So I think we've got to learn new things, and collaboration is one of them. And I think Planet Home, we've worked really hard on our philosophies and our collaborations, and we don't get it right. I fail a lot. But I think that one of the most important things is when we talk about regenerative systems, we talk about regenerative farming, but we also have to talk about regenerative people. We have to be okay with failure. We have to be okay with forgiveness. It's like the onion thing. We've got to try to keep the onion close so we can collaborate. And, we're not going to get it right. We're going to fail a lot, and we've got to be okay with failure. Innovation comes from failure.
Competition does not breed collaboration so well.
No.
That's part of our issue. Jack Fuller says, Anthony, you're a peacemaker and profound transformation to what we need in life, especially now. Keep up the great work, and thanks for sharing your energy tonight.
You're welcome. I'll send the $10 to you tomorrow. Thanks, bud.
That's right. Just tell him your Venmo. Come on. Wait. He put his Venmo up. Colin Peterson says, thank you both for your beautiful minds and time. Michael Swiskay says, thank you, Galinsky, for providing us an audience with this man concerned about the future of this orb we live on. Andrew Einhorn says, urban gardens, love it. Convert empty factories and use rooftops.
Yes, and yes. And we're going to have lots of empty space. And we never tackled what's going to happen if everyone goes back to the offices or not. Is everyone going to go back and work in conventional offices after COVID? It's a big question, right?
Yeah, well, it's
more gardens.
Turco Ono says every day should be Earth Day. Agreed. Let's take.
Yes, we should ditch Earth celebrations until we fix the Earth and stop celebrating every year Earth Day and make every day a day that we have to work for the Earth. I agree.
Let's look at a couple more quick pictures here. Tell us. No, not that one.
Yeah, that's Charlie Henkel. Funny enough. That's due to the one you showed earlier, but that's Charlie Hinkle, the guy I mentioned earlier, who was our co-producer on Planet Home and is one of our long-term partners and one of the most amazing humans on this planet. Oh, that's the team. Oh, geez. That's half the team, actually. But yeah, that's about half the amount of people that worked on the project.
Amazing. Great people.
Oh, Dixon Despommier. That's 2017. He's one of my heroes. If you don't know Dixon,
who is Dixon Despommier?
Yeah, he's amazing.
Who is he? Give us a thumbnail.
Dixon is one of the foremost leaders in kind of like it's really where when you start like farming and that kind of stuff, he's the kind of world leader in that space. So who's this
young guy?
He basically, in short, he's a professor of microbiology, and he actually was speaking just after me there when I was actually just doing an introduction. I wasn't speaking at this event, by the way. That's me trying to get the audience ready for camera.
Now, I've got a couple final questions for you. How has well, actually, I think we kind of answered it, but I'll ask it maybe if we already answered it. How has the pandemic upended things for you and this quarantine? And I think you already talked about it quite a bit, about getting closer to your son and understanding more about listening and communication and collaboration. The really important question is, we're on a Zoom call. Are you wearing pants?
Yeah, got some nice, like, nice blue shorts on.
Okay. I love it when everyone stands up just to show.
Yeah.
Last week,
But I heard someone drop their pants the other day on your show.
Wally Green.
Which I watched, and I watched all of it apart from the end. And then you told me about it, and I was like, okay, well, that's not in my, lucky enough, it's not in my lane. Although, being that I used to be in the rock and roll business, I would imagine that most people would expect that type of behavior from me. I was unfortunately on the adult side of the rock and roll business, not the party side of the rock and roll business.
That was a subtle cue for you to do something like,
Yeah, no, I'm not in mine, unfortunately. Fortunately, I live in the responsible side of business.
So, what are you binge watching anything, or do you have any suggestions of what people are watching?
I am watching. I just watched one thing. It's hilarious. Are you familiar with Space Force and Donald Trump's Space Force?
Yes.
All right. I couldn't believe it, by the way, when he dropped the Space Force thing a few years ago. I got to tell you, I also have a really pet peeve about this whole moonshot shit. Not a fan of it. I actually think we should focus on an Earth shot and stop fucking around and spending billions of dollars getting up there so we can play whatever games we want to play. Right now, we have people dying down here, and we have the planet dying, and we're trying to get up there. So I'm not a big advocate for the space shot. But I did watch Space Force with Stephen Carell this week, and I watched every show. I watched the whole thing end to end because it's hilarious. Because it turns out that the government tried to trademark Space Force at the same time that they were writing that show.
In the real government,
not government, as in like the White House.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's team tried to trademark Space Force, and at the same time, Netflix was trademarking Space Force. And because Space Force is not real at the White House, but the show's real, it looks like Netflix are going to win the battle for the trademark for Space Force. So now Space Force, Donald Trump can't have his Space Force. So he's got to rename his Space Force. Oh. That's what the story is anyway. I don't know how much truth is in that, but that's
another feather in his cap.
Yeah, yeah.
This has been awesome. This has been incredible. It's like, this has been honestly like a masterclass. And I really appreciate you taking the time. And I want to ask you, what is your call to action for my audience? What is your call to action?
One thing every day. One thing for the planet every day. That's it. One thing. You can do 2, that's great. You can do 3, that's even better. But one thing every day, and just put that as a part of your ritual. And if a billion people did one thing every day, we'd have a billion actions, right? We could actually start to make a difference. So just one thing every day. Don't try and change the world. We can't do it. No one can change the world. There's no hero complex here. There's no one's God. No one's going to go save us. Like, no one's falling down from the sky. All that hero nonsense has to go away, and everybody has to be empowered to do one action every day, teach their kids to do an action, their kids to teach their parents to do an action. So one action every day. And by the way, you can go to Planet Home, and there's a bunch of stuff to do.
Go to Planet Home and do one action.
Or anywhere else, by the way. There's so many great organizations that you work with. And Hank Rogers is on here as one of my heroes. Like Kathy Eldon, like you've had everyone. So just follow. I just say, follow you. Whatever you're doing, everyone else should do. Then life will be better.
Right on, brother. Thanks, Anthony. It was a great hour.
Thanks, bud.
Have a great night.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
Good night.
Actually,
Did I leave?
Farmtastic. Samantha, that's the last one.
Farmtastic.
You said Farmtastic.
I love that, man. Farmtastic. I'm gonna rock Farmtastic a week.
Run it. Okay. Peace, man.
Thanks, Robert.